I actually had a very difficult time deciding where to start today's episode because I never thought that the sagas I'm about to talk about would be the subject of so much discussion within the YouTube book community. Hello everyone! For those who know me, welcome back, and for those who are new here, you are very welcome. I'm Irene Riderelli and this is Into the Books. Over the past few weeks, I've come across a number of YouTubers who are reviewing books recommended by the so-called BookTokers. I'm going to stop here for a moment to explain to those of you who, like me, before I researched this, don't know who BookTokers are. Basically, they are people who are mostly active on TikTok and recommended books as I do. But what is the difference? The difference is just one, but very important. They don't review books in as much detail because the app only supports short videos up to 3 minutes. TikTok is not like YouTube, where you can take all the time you need to explain and talk in depth about the subject in question. In my case, I chose books as the topic of my YouTube channel, and I could definitely never upload one of my videos to TikTok because it isn't allowed to post a 10-minute video on an application that has 45 seconds to a minute and a half as the average viewing time. When the controversies generated by the BookTokers first started, I didn't really pay much attention to them because, to be honest, I didn't think that some TikTok videos could ever intersect with my YouTube channel or the channels of those who talk about books in depth like I do. And I hadn't thought about it before, especially since TikTok's audience is younger than YouTube's. But when the topic went viral, it piqued my curiosity. In this episode, I'm going to talk about the most viral BookTok series that set the web on fire. I mean the sagas of Chestnut Springs by Elsie Silver, The Fine Print by Lauren Asher, and Twisted Love by Hannah Wang. I want to make it clear that today I'm going to talk about the sagas themselves and not really about the plots of each book because I've already talked about those in previous episodes, and likewise I'll leave the links to those videos in the box below. Without further ado, let's get started. Let's start with Twisted Love by Hannah Wang, which, by the way, I first heard about in the then unknown to me world of BookTok. This series consists of 4 books, and each of them is about the life of a different girl. The common thread is that the 4 main characters are best friends who have not had an easy life, although from the outside everything seems perfect. They met when they become roommates by fate, as the university assigned them to the same apartment. I'm not going to go into much detail because if you are interested, you can watch my video where I introduce the first book of the saga. Instead, I want to talk about the series and what I think has gotten people talking so much. The next saga is The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. The protagonists are 3 billionaire brothers who, in order to receive their share of the inheritance after the death of their grandfather, must face some personal and emotional challenges. And last but not least, it's my favorite of the 3, Chestnut Springs by Elsie Silver. This saga depicts the lives of 4 brothers and the matinee of one of them. 2 of the brothers live in the family land. The third is a war hero. The fourth is a famous NHL player, while the matinee is a bull rider like his mentor. Their lives revolve around their family, although there are obviously ups and downs. Now that I've given you a general idea of what these series are all about, I'd like to share with you my opinion and feelings about them. I have read the 12 books that make up the series, and I am not going to lie to you by saying that they are different or life-changing, because they are not. And obviously, they are not on the same level of masterpieces like Jane Eyre or Madame Bovary. And I think this is exactly the point where the problem lies. I've seen around here a lot of YouTubers complaining and saying that BookTokers are ruining the literary scene because, according to them, BookTokers are lowering the reading standards since the books they recommend are, to put it politely, pure garbage. First of all, we, content creators, must never forget that we have a responsibility to our viewers to suggest books that are generally based on our personal preferences, but we can also, and we have an obligation to, recommend books that fit the tastes of our audience, because we cannot forget that the audience is extremely broad. Let me explain. YouTube is a platform that has billions of users on a daily basis, and what I just called users are actually human beings who have different backgrounds, culture, religion, educational level, and so on. Then it is impossible to put them all in the same category. There are people looking for suggestions of books that are more sophisticated because they want a book that challenges them and stimulates them intellectually. But whatever their reasons are, their motives are right, and they are more than welcome to our channels, because that's what we specialize in: reading good books and giving our opinions to our audience that follows us just because they decided to and because they like our work. But at the same time, we have to remember that there are millions of people who are not looking for this kind of books. They are just looking for something that entertains and helps them to have a good time. And they also deserve all our respect and time. When I hear all the content creators say, I read this so you don't have to, I realize that they are not aware that they are actually putting themselves in a position of superiority over the people who chose those lowbrow books. Let's talk about the sagas I mentioned above. These books are labeled as romance books because obviously their stories develop around romance. In these books, the protagonists start out as women who are a bit insecure, fearful, and portrayed as damsels in distress. As the books progress, the female protagonists evolve, become more self-aware. Their weaknesses become their strength in one way or another, and in the end, they become the heroines because they are the ones who save the male protagonists. Most male protagonists are broken men who have changed completely after great emotional pain. They had become cold towards life and love, and it's only thanks to women that they decide to open up to love again. What I said in the previous paragraph is just a very brief summary of the plots of the 3 series that are the subject of this episode. But I have to say that the stories in general have much more content than this brief summary. I did this just as point of reference to confirm that 9 out of 10 times the stories unfold as I have described, and that is exactly what we are looking for from the romance genre. And not only. People who choose to read romance mostly want to escape from reality, but not necessarily escape in a negative sense, simply as something that makes them get out of their daily routine and immerse themselves in a totally fictional world where a beautiful love story unfolds. For example, I read a lot of books for a living, and I read all genres from thrillers to fantasy, historical novels, philosophical novels, etc. And I can say without a doubt that none of the aforementioned genres give me the feeling of comfort and relaxation that romance books give me. In fact, when I have a very stressful period in my life, I have noticed that my brain asks for a romance book because it is the escape it needs to relax. These kind of novels are light reading, although many times. I have read romance novels where the main characters were very well delineated but not easy to understand. I really don't know why people despise this genre. Isn't the purpose of our channels to promote reading? Who are we to point the finger at those who might prefer to read powerless or twisted lies rather than Anna Karenina or Lolita? Perhaps those who have chosen BookTok books are people who are making their first attempts to approach reading and think that novels are an excellent choice. Personally, as an avid reader, I have had to read a lot in my life, not only for pleasure but also for academic purpose. And I can tell you that it is way better to start with easy books than with masterpieces. Imagine that you are a person trying to get into the habit of reading, and instead of starting with, say, Final Offer, which is a very popular book on TikTok and has caught your attention, you decide to read Wuthering Heights in its place, but only because a YouTuber who, let's not forget, reviews books for a living and reads a ridiculous number of books, said that Wuthering Heights is much better. If you were a novice reader, do you really think you would understand the complexity of this masterpiece? Or do you think you would try to read another book if you were dissatisfied with the first one you read? The answer is most likely no. Reading is a journey, just like life. There are days when we feel to the top and we feel powerful, and maybe when we want to broaden our horizons by reading complex books that have the ability to show us shades of life that are far from our reality. But there are also bad days, and when we are exhausted or worried, the last thing we want to do is read a book that, even if it is a masterpiece, might put an unnecessary burden on our shoulders. When I feel stressed, I mostly read romance novels, and I enjoy every single page of them. Should I be ashamed of my decision? Absolutely not. We should never be ashamed of what we choose to read, because all that really matters is to read. It doesn't matter whether you read Hegel, Jane Austen or Proust. What counts is that you enjoy your reading and spend some time with yourself while reading. Our mind works because without realizing it, we improve and expand our vocabulary. Our neurons switch on new neurons and our ability to think develops. So please keep reading what you like. No matter what it is, you have made a great choice. Thank you for joining me to the end of today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it all. Please let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. I would love to read them. If you haven't already done so, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and share this video with someone you think might be interested. As usual, I'll see you next week.